All right, so thank you for joining us for today's MicroAge Talks Technology. As the title of the webinar indicates, this one is about educating people on how to recognize phishing attempts. We present this type of webinar a couple of times a year, and Sergio and I enjoyed this one a lot. Why? Because 74% of breaches involve humans, and phishing is still one of the three main ways threat actors get into your organizations. The other two, in case anybody is curious, is stolen credentials, which is kind of like, usually using some kind of phishing, and exploiting vulnerabilities. So today we'll spend a little time teaching everyone on the call how to catch a phish. So my name is Maria Fiore. I'm the Director of Operations for MicroAge, and I'm joined by Sergio Lima, Director of Customer Success at MicroAge. Welcome, Sergio.
Hello to everyone. Great to be here.
So before we begin, a few housekeeping notes. First, attendees are muted to reduce background noise. We encourage you all to ask your questions throughout the presentation by using the questions panel of the webinar tool. The webinar is being recorded, and the recording will be sent to you within the next 24 hours for your review and to share with people you think would benefit from listening in. In the same email, you will receive the link to download the free ebook that we're making available to you for today's webinar. Lastly, at the end of the webinar, you will receive a short 3-question survey to gather your feedback, and your feedback is really important to us, and it will help us improve future webinars, so please take a minute to give us your feedback. Much appreciated. So before handing things over to Sergio, I'm going to take a minute to give a brief overview of who we are for those who may not know us. So MicroAge is a Canadian technology service provider with 38 locations across Canada. We've been providing IT services and solutions to our clients since 1981. The key for us is understanding your organization, your operations, your clients, your people, your goals, your challenges, your opportunities. Understanding your organization helps us recommend and provide the IT services and solutions that are right for you. And that is in a nutshell, is who we are. So Sergio, your turn.
Thank you, Maria. It's my turn.
Your turn.
Thank you, everyone, for being here. I like doing these sessions. We do it several times a year. We like to change the content and the questions and the email templates. So this is going to be fun because we've changed it around again. But let's go through, before that, let's go through some of the stats as we usually do with our webinars to see if anything's changed, if anything's gotten worse or better, the impacts of all of that, what the human firewall is, what do we mean by that? And then obviously we're going to go into our questions and our email templates and see if you can answer them correctly, whether they're legit or fraudulent emails, whether the questions, if you can answer the right questions. These are typically actually this is the exact content that we're taking out of our phishing and training platform. So this is an example of what your users can see in terms of questions, following some form of content, 5 to 7 minute videos, and then they have to answer some questions. These are the typical questions that you go through. So let's go for it. We've updated some of the stats, but again, last year, almost 90% of Canadian organizations experienced some form of cyber attack, where there was a big impact or a small impact. There was something that happened within their network. And if you look at their stat on the far right, upper right, it's pretty much what's going to happen for 2023. We're already at 85%. There's a couple months left. I'm assuming it's going to be if not, close to 89, it might be at 85. But in any case, that's a lot of companies being hit with some form of cyber attack. 42% of Canadian organizations had paid some ransom, but even though they paid ransom, still had some data that was destroyed. So that, if you don't have a good backup, that's a potential problem, an issue for your business, whether you can recover from it or not. And 50% of those incidences are pretty much social engineering, and specifically the business email compromise. So it's emails that come from, hey, it's your president asking you for transfer of funds, I need money, I need gift cards, and those types of emails. So that, again, scary, because when you receive these types of emails, the last thing you should be doing is just automatically acting on it, and you need to validate that, right? So
And
I think,
I'm just gonna say right here, the ebook that we're making available to everybody is actually focused right on business email compromise, because 50% of these are
yeah,
trying to defraud you of money somehow, right?
that's
So
right. Yeah. So let's look at this page now. This is a tournament called the Gone Phishing Tournament by a company called Terra Nova Security. They have a phishing and training platform available. And it's actually the platform that our location uses, but there's different platforms that are out there. But they do a yearly tournament where they invite anybody to join, and you submit your email address, and you'll be receiving some potential email templates or fraudulent spam. Um, and their goal is to see whether or not your users are susceptible to clicking some of those links. Um, there's actually one going on right now for 2023, so we don't have the results of that, but these are 2022 results. And what's nice about it is actually the middle score, the middle stat being at 4% of the participants that were clicked on malicious links. The year before that, it was at 20%. So what that shows us is that there is an increased vigilance, there's an increased awareness, which means that the companies are possibly implementing a little bit more training for phishing and ransomware, et cetera, and stuff. So that's good. It's lowering the rates. What's still high is the last number, 44%, because you're 4% of the people that are still clicking on those links. Well, half of those people are still going all the way to the end of that link and entering their user information and password, and of course, giving away a potential, opening up a door for a cyber criminal to get into your network using those credentials. So that's the main focus that we're trying to fix with our awareness and stuff. That's pretty much, try and teach them not to go all the way and use other methods of instead of clicking right away, just think before you click. Obviously, that's our slogan. But think before you click. Do some research. Call people or communicate in another fashion just to make sure that that's a legit email that's coming in.
the other thing too to remember
Yeah.
is that because
Oh,
things change, right? Like
mhm.
the way that cyber criminals operate, or the kind of, like, we used to say, watch for grammatical errors, watch for English or whatever language that doesn't make sense. But with AI now, that's becoming harder and harder, right? Like, I mean, they
Yeah.
just can go on whatever chat GPT and say, hey, write me an email, as if I were a cybersecurity person, and it'll write a nice email, and it'll have all grammar, great grammar and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
it changes all the time. So the point of doing these awareness programs on a regular basis is, to make sure that people are up to date with some of the stuff that goes on, right? A lot
Yeah.
of it is the same, but a lot, some of it changes. And so you want to keep up to date. Plus, I mean, let's face it, we're always, hiring people, and new people need to be trained.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
it's important.
Yep. Yeah. That was the old way of doing it, right? There were just emails with full of spelling mistakes, and it wasn't really set up right. The format was wrong. That's not the case anymore.
It's
There's other
amazing to
things you have to
me.
look
It's
for.
still amazing to me, Sergio. We get these texts, mainly texts, right, from, I don't know, Ontario Hydro or whoever, saying, hey, we're going to send you money, or the CRA, we're going to
Yeah.
send you money. And you're sitting there going, who clicks on these things? But obviously, somebody's clicking on
Nobody
these things
clicks. Yeah.
because they don't know better, right?
Yeah.
And so these cyber criminals, like you said earlier this morning when we did the French, they're
Yeah.
lazy. So
Yep.
they're,
They're
they're
lazy.
gonna do
Yeah.
the least amount of work
They'll
possible,
let you
right?
do the work for them, right? That's the goal for them, so they can hit
Yeah.
multiple targets at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Sergio, like you said, we're going to change it up a little bit today, and just, we see a bunch of statistics. We see them and we read them. We hear about, these big companies being hacked all the time, every day. We hear one or the other. But what I wanted to do was maybe ask you a couple questions to try to bring this to, like, the real, what's happening, or is it just the big, look, companies that are being hacked? Like, what are you seeing, right? And you're dealing with, all the clients that are, participants that might be on this call, or people who are listening in.
Yeah.
And what I wanted to try to do is make it a little bit more real, because like I said, statistics are great and I love stats, but at the end of the day, they have to be real. You have to kind of feel what this means to people, right?
Yeah.
So I wanted to ask you first, in your location, because we have 38 locations across Canada, but in your location, over the last, let's call it 9 months, how many incidents have you seen approximately?
There's been quite a few incidents. The ones that stand out are the ones that we consider major incidents. I mean, sometimes you get potential fraud, potential attack, potential someone's in your network, and we're able to stop it at a certain level. Those are often, they happen often, but the ones that I see that we consider major, and then we had that question this morning, what do we consider a major incident for us? I mean, any customer who's down for over a day to us is a major incident. And we see anywhere from 1 to 2 clients per month going down with a cybersecurity incident of that nature. I mean, I can't speak for the other locations. I guess it depends on the number of customers that they have. It depends on the level of security that that they have in place, how much they've invested. I'm trying to look at what's common between all of them. There's no commonality with whether a customer of ours is managed or not managed. So whether we're managing the network, whether they have their own team managing it, it's pretty much a 50-50 split on that. It could happen to anybody, and it can happen to, I guess, the ones that are more susceptible are the ones that don't invest the right in the right solutions, because I don't want to say the right amount, because it depends on your business. It depends on what you want to protect. You need to look at what's critical for your business, and are you investing enough to secure it, right? I don't see a commonality with the types of business. So I've seen anywhere from distributors, manufacturers, law firms, accounting firms, construction companies. There's quite a few actually, retail. So it's everywhere. It's not a specific category. It's anyone getting hit. I also don't see a commonality in the number, how big your enterprise is or your company is. I mean, we've dealt with incidences of 20 user environments with a couple of servers, some with no servers. We've dealt with customers that have had 300 users. So, again, not something that's common between them. There's only one thing that I can see that is common between all of them, and it's a 50-50 split. It's 50% of them were hit because of some form of phishing email, some link that was clicked that authorized the cyber criminal to get into your network using credentials that were stolen or lost, etc. So that 50% split is pretty much the the end user part, I guess the weakest link being the end user. And the other 50% split is devices that are not up to speed or up to par with what's going on in the industry. So for example, operating systems that are no longer supported by Microsoft that cannot be patched anymore, or systems that were never patched or are not patched properly. This is the 50-50 split. So it's the lack of proactiveness, the lack of keeping your systems up to date and protected as much as possible. That's the 50%, and the other 50% is really the user portion.
I'd heard somewhere, and don't quote me, I can't remember the exact stat again. I like stats, but almost 80% of your risk can be managed if you manage those two things, right?
That's
like
right.
some really big number, right?
That's right.
So there's some basic things that we're going to talk about later on that can be done, but yeah, I mean that. That's they're still getting in the same ways they were getting in before. They may do it differently. The emails may look different, but they're still, using the same strategies, I guess.
And again, it depends on what you have in place. It depends on your plan, depends on your backups. If you had proper backups, it depends on if you had any kind of incident response plan, or if you were able to recover quickly. It ranged from 1 day, 2 days, 4 days. And, we've had instances of a week and 2 weeks for some customers. 2 weeks down, no systems, nothing. Your employees are pretty much not doing anything.
The cost of that.
So, it's fine to think that your data is backed up and you can recover something, but you have to calculate the amount of time it takes to recover that data. And you can't just restore and turn everything back on. Now you're looking at, well, which machine was infected. So you got to call, cyber insurance obviously deals with a security firm that they deal with. They have to bring them in. They're pretty much the validation point, right? So before, they call, let's say, MicroAge, we come in with our techs, and now we have to start scanning and figure out, number one, is the infection still there? So is there something in your environment that's still there? We need to fix that or eradicate it. And then after that, we need to figure out, okay, what do we bring online first? What's critical? Have you established what's your critical data? Then once we restore that or start to restore, then somebody needs to validate whether that data is also encrypted, because your backups may have been encrypted. And there's always that, security firm that works with the insurance that validates whether or not you're okay to go to the next step. So that takes long to bring that in, because if you bring in infected data again, you're just going back to vicious circle. So that's the part that takes a long time, and obviously that takes time, takes resources. So there's tens of thousands of dollars of fees for technical people, tens of thousands of dollars of fees for legal firms, and not to mention the lost revenue of your business and any kind of reputational impact that may have for you being down. So that's it becomes very expensive,
Well,
even
it's one
for
of those
small
things.
firms.
Yeah, and it's one of those things that it affects the organization, right? The
Yeah,
reputation and client and
yeah,
legal and all this, but it affects the employees as well. I mean, they're sitting somewhere waiting to start working and wondering
yeah,
what's going on, and when is it gonna, when are we gonna be able to do our work again, right? Like
yeah.
it affects everyone. So
Yeah, and one thing to note, the insurance companies will, are there to, I guess, for this, to cover this in case it happens. But before you signed your paperwork with cyber insurance, they've asked you to adhere to certain criteria, right? Basic security things you've put in place. If
measures
you've
and
checked that,
controls. Yeah.
if you've set everything to yes, and you just said yes because you wanted the insurance and you didn't put those things in place yet, if something happens and they see that you did not have any of those in place, they may not pay for that. So that's another potential risk that you may have.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, so how do we
So
fix that?
yeah. So thank you, Sergio. And like I say, I the whole purpose of having that discussion is because sometimes, like I said, you see stats in the
Yeah.
90% and 60% and 85%, and what does it mean, like in the real world? Like what does that look like? So
It looks like pure chaos. I'm telling you, it looks like pure chaos. Client side and our side, it is chaos. It
and
gets
on
eventually fixed, but it is a long, arduous process. It's a tough one. Yeah.
all right, well, on that positive note, Sergio, let's move on.
Yeah, not very positive, but here's a positive note. Your weakest link is the human, I guess, the employee. So how do you create a human firewall? Well, obviously, let's get some awareness training, education. Let's give them some easy to understand content in layman's terms so that they can be a bit more vigilant and aware of what's going on. And while they're doing that, well, let's send them some phishing. Let's do some phishing campaigns and send them some templates and see if they're listening to the content, and see if if they're really just deleting those emails or reporting them and not clicking on certain things. So that's the whole goal of the cybersecurity awareness platform or program. And obviously there's reporting on a regular basis, who's following the training and who's getting spammed and who's clicking, et cetera, and all of that monitoring comes along with it. But that to me is like essential right now. It's not something good to have. It's part of the basic security services that you should be putting in place at your business. So let's take a look at some of the sample questions and emails that may or may not be fraudulent, and the questions that your employees could possibly see while doing this training. Let's start it up, Maria. So what's going to happen is we'll give you questions. You get a little bit of time to look at the question and the answer, and then Maria will pop up the survey. You'll answer, and then we'll see the results, and we'll see what the real answer is.
Yeah, and we start with cybersecurity questions, like Sergio said. So,
Yeah.
like how much knowledge do you have on the whole cybersecurity piece of it? And then we're gonna go to the emails and the legit or phish
Yeah.
game. So
Cool.
let's go.
All right, let's go. Question number 1, if you click on a link in a suspicious email and are redirected to a phishing site, your info will be stolen. True or false?
Pretty good question. So again, poll is up. You can go ahead and respond now. Oh my God, this is going quick. Good for you. I love it when people respond quickly. I guess we're almost there in terms of the responses. Give it 5 more seconds and then we'll turn it off. All right, I'll close the poll and share that and see that we have 53% that thought it was true and 47% that thought it was false. Let's see, it's almost a 50-50 split.
And the answer is false. Because even if you inadvertently click on a link or a button and redirect it to the phishing website, I mean, it's still not too late. It's not too late to avoid, falling prey to an actual phishing attack. Obviously, what we're seeing is a lot of these emails that you get with the links, it sort of brings you to a landing page as a step one. And then asks you to, based on whatever email you received, the sense of urgency, it'll say, well, you need to enter your credentials or click this button to reset your password, etc. And that's the step two. That's where they'll be collecting the info. And it's not necessarily the downloading or, stealing of information. You have to open the door for them. And that's what they're relying on. We said that they're kind of not lazy, but I don't want to say lazy because then they're going to attack me. But they're the quickest way, for them to attack multiple targets is to have this format, so you can click and give them the information. They don't have to go retrieve and create scripts and batch files and then attach it to an email, and then sometimes it gets blocked, and then then collect the info. They'd rather you just flat out give them your info. It's just easier for them.
True.
Yeah. So question number 2, once ransomware is activated on your computer, what can it encrypt? Select the best answer. It is one answer, I believe.
Yeah,
the best.
there's only one.
So will it encrypt the file stored on your computer, the file stored on your computer and your network, the files stored on your computer and your phone, or the files stored on your network?
All right, let's launch the poll and see what you think. 50% have voted. We're going to wait a little bit longer as people think this through. All right, we're going to give it a couple more seconds. Okay, so 8% said the files stored on your computer, 81% files stored on your computer and your network. Nope, nobody said files stored on your computer and your phone. And 11% said files stored on your organization's network.
Mm-hmm.
And what do you say to that?
Well, it's both. It's your computer and the organization's network. So it's a mix of, it's a combination of answer number 1 and answer number 4 put together. Because once, their goal is to get all devices that are there, but not your phones. From experience, we haven't had any incidences that involved any kind of mobile phones being hacked and stuff. So that's not what they're interested in. They need pure data. They need data to be encrypted, and they have the right tools to get that done. It's much more effective to encrypt a network drive with a bunch of data than it is to encrypt someone's phone and whatnot. So for them, it's most importantly, it's getting access to your machine and getting access to your network that your machine is connected to.
Cool part about that is that 81% of you got it right.
Yes, good, very good. Question number 3, what are the common ways that you could unintentionally install ransomware on your computer? Select all that apply. So by opening a malicious email attachment, by visiting a malicious website, by installing an infected application, or by reading an article online. So there's several answers.
Yes, so let me launch the poll. I'll give you a chance to respond. Very cool, we're almost there. A couple more seconds. All right. I think we've got pretty much everybody. All right, so we're gonna close and share that. And so we have 84% who said by opening a malicious email attachment, 76% by visiting a malicious website, 89% by installing an infected application, and 11% said by reading, an email. Sorry, I'm going to get this. By reading an article online. Yes. Okay. Yeah. And so let's take a look at the.
That's good. So people were pretty much in line. It's the top three that, pretty much that's what it is. You're visiting malicious websites. You're either opening an email that brings you to a malicious website. Your chances are, we've seen in the news that some vendors actually have their application. They get, compromised, and then hackers bring in their version of a software or update, and then everybody downloads it and it affects your machines or your applications. So those are the three top that we've been seeing. It's very rare that just by reading articles on website that you'll actually get infected, unless there's links embedded within that and you're clicking on links which are in turn bringing you to some malicious website which is pretty much the second answer.
And those ads you see there.
Yeah.
Don't click on those.
Correct.
You just don't know.
All right. Question 4, what are the consequences of someone knowing your network, computer, or application account password? Select all that apply. So this person could assume your identity on the network. Their actions on the network would be attributed to you. They have access to your applications, but not the information stored in them. And they have access to your applications and the information stored in them.
All right, so let's launch the poll and see what everybody thinks. Oh, look at this. Some smart people on this webinar. But this is what it's all about. It's about education, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, we're almost there. Two more seconds, and we're going to close this down and take a look at the responses. So 90% said they could assume your identity on the network. 92% said their actions on the network would be attributed to you. 5% said they have access to applications but not info stored in them. And 100% said they have access to applications and info stored in them. And so the answers are?
That's right. That's good.
Yep.
So yes, they can assume your identity. They can pretend it's you. They, whatever they do under your name, if you have the right permissions and access that might be attributed to you, they might think it's you. They will have access to your applications and the information stored. They don't really care about your applications, but they may need access to your applications to get to your data. So that's why the third one doesn't apply. Their goal is to get to your data and not the apps themselves. They really don't care about the apps.
Very good.
Good. Question number 5, true or false? If you create a long, complex password, you can use the same password for all your online accounts.
All right. Poll is up. We've got almost everybody voting, or give it a few more seconds. I get the last couple of you to enter your responses. And okay, 10 more seconds. All right, I'll close this down and share the response. So 23% true, 77% said false. So the answer is?
It is false. So yes, it's good to have complex passwords, but it's not good to have that same password across all your systems and, SaaS applications, online accounts, etc. What the best practice is really is to segregate or split the types of passwords you're using for your business versus what you're using on the personal side. And to take it one step further, the recommendation would be to never use your company address or company information or credentials, such as your email address at your company's domain, for when you register to anything that's personal accounts, where you have your, your banking and stuff like that. They recommend you use different email addresses for that, so that in the event that one or the other side gets hacked, it just doesn't leak into the other one, which is what you don't want is that you may be more protected at work than you are at home. If you get infected at home and you have the same passwords across both, chances are they'll be going into your network and trying to use the same credentials under your name.
Yes.
All right. Last question. What is the best way to reduce the risk of malware infection? Select all that apply. So use an antivirus program to scan files that are on USB keys. Do not download or open attachments in unsolicited or unexpected emails. Use antivirus programs to scan files downloaded from the internet. And do not click on a link or button in an unexpected or suspicious email. Multiple answers.
Yes. Let's launch the poll and see what the results will be. And sometimes, you like we have the training platform, right? And we answer these questions. Sometimes the questions aren't obvious, right?
No.
But yeah.
Some of them are tricky now, obviously, because these questions follow, like a 5-minute video. So you'll be reading and listening to, why you shouldn't or what you shouldn't do, etc. And then these questions follow. So unfortunately for everyone listening, you didn't have the liberty to listen to that. So
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, we pretty much got everybody voted. So let's close that down and share the results. So we see 85% said use antivirus programs for files stored on your USB keys. 98% do not download open attachments or in unexpected emails. 88% use antivirus programs for your downloaded items from the internet, downloaded files, I should say, and 98% do not click on a link button in suspicious email. So that's a pretty
it's pretty much all of them. It's pretty much all of them. So please follow these instructions if you can. Obviously, answer 1 and 3 are related to an antivirus program, antivirus software application that you're putting in place. So that should cover a lot of it. But in some cases, you may choose not to scan USB keys and stuff, but you have to make sure you can scan everything, any in and out data that's going onto your network or machines. Well, I could take it one step further, make sure you have some form of an anti-spam solution in place, so you can at least block, 90 some odd % of spams that are already coming in. So that'll help. And then obviously, I mean, if you're not expecting emails from a certain, some certain entities or individuals, you don't know who they are, before you start downloading and clicking on links and buttons and stuff, like we mentioned, find another way to validate whether this is a legit email that's coming through. So whether contacting the person via phone or text or a brand new email, but don't use the same email you received to contact them, because chances are you're contacting the cyber criminal. Okay, so
speaking of that, let's play Phish or Legit.
Yes, so there you go. We'll give you a bit of time to look at the email that is on the screen, and then we'll let you vote whether it is legit or spam, and we'll show you the results.
Yeah, so this is an email from booking.com. Those who travel probably know what booking.com are, and they're asking to reset the password as a precaution. They say something about, they think some of a contractor of theirs may have gotten a security incident, so they want everybody to change their passwords. So you've given enough time for everybody to read through and have a look at it to see what your thoughts are. And I'm going to launch the poll and ask you to tell us whether you think it's a phish or legit. Okay, almost Yeah, we're close to everybody getting everybody's vote, so we're just
Mhm.
going to give it a few more seconds. Yeah. Yeah, pretty sure we got everybody there. So let's close that down and share the results. And so 35% thought it was a Phish and 65% thought it was legitimate. And the answer is?
The answer is it is legitimate.
It is legitimate.
Yeah, but please explain your process. What
Yeah,
happened when you
so
received this email?
yeah, so like Sarah just said, the first thing I would do is move my mouse over the from to see what that alias looks like, and I looked okay. It came to me and not to 55 other people or no people. Sometimes they put no
Yeah,
name there, which is a big red flag. And I read through it and it looked okay. That there wasn't any threats or there wasn't any do it now or like it was well written, but I didn't click on any of those links. I went to booking.com the way I normally would. And you know, interestingly enough, they had a little note saying, we've asked everybody to change their password in case, we're pretty confident that we're fine, but just in case, change your password. So went into my account, changed my password, and everything was fine. I went so far as to check with my entourage to see that they get, because I have some people I know who also they get this email, they did, but the thing that I didn't do is click on any of the links. Now you could call me paranoid, and maybe I am, but like why take a chance? Just go directly to the website the way you normally would. And if it starts acting weird or asking you to change your password without, like any, you know, legitimate way of doing it, then don't go further, right? But
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
I didn't click on the
Unfortunately,
links.
that's the new way for us to make sure that it's not not a phishing email. And unfortunately, we're going to have to start doing connecting to our apps and sites and stuff, are going, I guess, going around this email and not clicking on the actual links, just to make sure that it's legitimate. I mean, you just never know, right? You can tell from the answers, right? It's just difficult to tell.
Yep.
Okay, next one.
So this is Sergio. This is somebody sending or you're being sent an
You're
email.
being sent
Here's
an
your
email with a
2FA
2FA
code.
code. Yeah, yeah.
All right. I think that's enough time
Yep.
for everybody. Yeah.
Sure.
All right. Let's launch the poll. Is it a Phish or is it legit? Thanks to everybody, by the way, for answering the questions. You guys are quick, and it's fun to see the numbers. So we're almost there. A couple more seconds to get the last votes in. And here we go. So we have 75% thought it was a Phish and 25% thought it was legitimate.
It is in fact a Phish, for several reasons. The most obvious one is look at your sender. So your sender is coming from a domain called helpdesk-support.com, but support has a 0 instead of an O. So that's the first thing you should be looking at. And then what I like to look at, if I can move my mouse here and you may see it, is this part here. This code will expire within 10 minutes. Please enter it as soon as you can. Sense of urgency is their biggest method of scaring / getting you to hurry up and click on something without thinking. So that you'll see that in emails where they create a sense of urgency and you have to get this done really quick. And a lot of times you may be multitasking, doing other stuff, and you're not necessarily looking at it properly, and then you're clicking on some links, and obviously that starts the whole process. So again, if you didn't get, they add that second level of trying to get you where, if you didn't request a verification code, change your password immediately. So now you're starting to doubt it, right? You're receiving an email.
Well,
Well,
you
I
may
didn't
not have
enter
asked for
anything.
anything,
Yeah,
right? Like
I didn't
you're
ask for
looking,
anything.
why
I
did
got a
I get
code. That's
right?
right. So what does that mean? Somebody's trying to hack into an account somewhere. So let me click on this change my password button and let me change that right away. So they kind of get you twofold, and which
Yeah.
is like a little bit of a snake move. But they
We
get a
are
lot of
dealing
people.
with threat actors, aren't we? So
Yes.
cyber criminals. So
Yeah. Next one, Spotify.
again, we'll give it a moment to read it through, have a look at some of the flags that we've already mentioned. All right. I'm going to launch the poll and see what you guys think about that one. Very cool. Let's give it a few more seconds because we got almost everybody's answer. That was quick. All right. Close that down and share the results. So 84% thought it was a Phish and 16% thought it was legit. And
It is a Phish.
84% were right.
Yep. So again, sketchy domain name, sketchy sender, sense of urgency, trouble with your billing. You need to check this up. Go to your accounts overview page. The logo is a little shady. It's not
Yeah,
even
it's
clear,
shady.
to be
Yeah,
honest.
yeah.
There's obviously they made some kind of a spelling error. They had a script that ran and didn't include your email. So, a couple things
Well,
that
and you know the
jump.
2 has no name on it. Like
Correct.
it's blank.
Yeah.
Like that's
Yeah.
big red flag.
That's right. Yeah. Good. Next one,
Awesome.
Teams.
Again, we're going to give you a little bit of time to review it, have a look, see if you can spot any red flags or maybe not.
I apologize for the small snapshot. It's the best I can do to try and get the whole content in. I think you can zoom in with the wheel of your mouse.
Yeah. All right. I will launch the poll so you get your votes in. Got almost everybody in. Give it a few more seconds. Okay. I think we're going to close it down and share the results. So 75% Phish, 25% legitimate. And
It is a Phish.
hmm,
So again, domain sketchy. And also just the fact that, I mean, they're banking on the fact that now a lot of companies are using Teams and SharePoint, and then there's a lot of automation involved, and you can like automatically invite people in your Teams sites and groups, and then you just get pop-ups and emails saying you've been invited to this group, and then you're just clicking on the link and you're automatically. So they're relying on the fact that there's not a disconnect, but a lot of people are not really talking to each other with regards to this. You're just assuming that you're being invited to Teams sites, and then you're just clicking on stuff to get accepted. But it's always good if you do get some sort of an invite via Teams within your business. Like you should be calling certain people and just to validate, make sure that you're part of that. You should be made aware of if you're being invited to certain sites and groups and Teams activities and SharePoint, etc. And the bottom, get it now, take it wherever you go, a little bit of sense of urgency, very shady at the bottom. There's not much information with regards to Microsoft. So, you have to think twice before accepting any of these.
yeah, absolutely.
I believe we have
Okay,
one more. Is that the last one, this one here?
that is the last
Yeah.
one.
Okay. Just in time for my coffee.
I'd say 50% off of Starbucks coffee isn't too bad given the price they charge. I mean, pretty good deal.
It'll only cost you $15
Yeah,
for a coffee.
pocket change.
Yeah.
All right, let's launch the poll and see what you all think. Again, this group is quick. Almost got everybody. Give it 5 more seconds here. All right, we got this. Oh, let's share the results of that one. So 79% thought it was a Phish and 21% thought it was legit. Oh, it is.
It is a Phish.
Hmm.
I guess what stands out is more, your organization has sent you a gift card. You might want to check with certain people to see if you're actually getting this. I mean, I would assume you don't just automatically get gift cards just like that without somebody telling you or advising you. Questionable domains. It's a good one though, because it's one of our popular templates. We still get a lot of people on this, obviously.
Yeah, when we were prepping for this, Sergio, I told you this one I had to think a minute,
Yeah,
take a look at it, and then I thought, wait a minute, if something really cool was happening, or if I did something really cool, and the organization was going to send me something, chances are I would know.
Right. We just have to catch that one person that did something cool that day, right? And said, "Oh, somebody gave me a gift," right?
Yeah, but
Or my good
it's
work.
always good to check, right?
Yeah. So, some of you may think that these templates are like easy or they're super simple, but the reality is the ones we've put here, the ones that are Phish anyways, are our most popular templates that catch people. And it's just a simple, inadvertently clicking, it's too quick, and that's it. We just get them. So it's as easy as that, unfortunately.
Very
So,
good.
what can we do to lower the risk, to lower your vulnerabilities, to get rid of your vulnerabilities?
Well, to lower the risk,
Lower
because
the risk. Yeah, the insurance companies are in line with this. We've been preaching this for years. But, let's start with permissions and access management. Ensure that, all of your users have the right permissions within your network. Don't give admin rights to all your users. Set up a structure that allows, specific people in departments to have access to only the data that they need to access. Passwords and who has access to what servers and systems and applications. The more you separate or segregate or segment, the harder it is for a cyber criminal to get into your network and go across everywhere. Obviously, the easier it is, the faster they get in. And if it's harder for them, then there could be a chance that someone, let's say whoever's managing your network, is going to detect it and try and stop it before it gets worse. So that's the first part. The password management is, again, talking about the complexity of your passwords, the length of your passwords. Ensure that you have a policy in place that does not allow employees or users to put simple passwords in place, whether it's for your apps or your Active Directory. Ensure that there's triggers in place that force them to use complex and long passwords across the board. And if they become, obviously, with that comes the inability to save all of these passwords in your head. So naturally, users will tend to create it on a file under the keyboard, write it down somewhere. So, if you can use a password management tool, which is like a couple bucks per month per user, it can help them, have access to certain systems without having to remember all these passwords. And then obviously there's a couple of them that just have, you just have to be doing this, like the patching of your systems, whether it's your user systems or your servers, your firewalls, your switches, everything needs to be up to date. It needs to be patched on a regular basis. There needs to be a schedule, and there needs to be something or someone ensuring that the patches are done and none of them failed, and there's no systems that are left vulnerable. EDR is endpoint detection and response, so it's the next generation antivirus. We're not talking about a traditional antivirus. We're talking about something that is has the ability to see the to look at the behavior of the user and the behavior of this machine, and if it sees that certain number of files are being changed, extensions and copied, etc., it knows that it's a suspicious activity, so it'll end up stopping that function, maybe disconnecting the machine from the network. It helps you, right, to limit the damage, I guess. Your MFA right now, used to be a good to have, and it's not a good to have anymore. You have no choice but to have MFA everywhere. So whether you're just an organization that is using only Microsoft products, M365, and nothing else, you still have to have the MFA there. So, activate your MFA for your users, whether they are at the office or especially if they're at home. Ensure that there is a double authentication or a two-factor authentication activated for all these users, and that goes across all. So whether you have SaaS applications, ensure they have MFA that you can enable. If you have VPN users, make sure MFA is enabled, and everything else.
What's SaaS? Just for
software as a service. So Salesforce, let's say, you use a Salesforce online and you just log into a web portal. That's a SaaS application. Acomba, the SaaS version. These are all web apps.
We use a lot of acronyms.
I got too technical, yeah.
EDR, MFA, SaaS.
Yeah. And then obviously we're talking about this today, cybersecurity awareness. Ensure that your employees are trained, please. They are your weakest link. They will.
Or your strongest defense.
Or your strongest defense. Nice one. I like that. Glass half full.
Absolutely.
Right? Yeah. So, by training them, they will be more vigilant, more aware, and they will help lower that risk, definitely. And if all else fails, could you please make sure there's a backup and a recovery process in place, like your plan B for backup, which sometimes becomes your plan A because everything else goes down. Ensure that you have the right backup retention, the right backup rules in place. So several copies, actually 3 copies of your data, 2 of them being replicated somewhere elsewhere on different media, and 1 of them being off-site. And make sure that 1 of them is an offline, which means not connected to your network all the time. And I say that because if someone gets into your network, he'll stay there for a while until he discovers your backups and scrap your backups and turn off your backups and delete your data, and you won't have anything. So that immutable, or I'm trying to find the English word to that, but it's your backup that is air-gapped backup, which is not connected to your network, is sometimes your only way of recovering your data. So those are pretty much the basics. They're in line with cyber insurance companies right now. So please take a note of that.
Like you said, though, the thing is, we have to understand your business, right? You understand, what's critical to you, what you have in place, and all of that stuff to be able to put in place the right measures, controls, and some, maybe there's other things that you need to do. Others, this is okay. The whole point is to minimize the risk, right? The whole point is, to make it harder so that the guy goes to the neighbor who may not have as much security or have put these things in place, really.
Yep. Cool. That being said, pass it over to you.
That being said, yes. So thanks for joining us today. We encourage you to download the ebook and reach out to your local microage with any questions. Again, the ebook specifically talks about the business email compromise. So please download it. I put the link in the chat for you, so you don't have to furiously write it down. And you'll get it also when you get the recording. So take advantage of it and share it with people that you think would benefit from reading through it. It's not a book, it's not 100 pages long. It's just a few pages long, but I think to help you understand what BEC is all about. Other than that, we do hope to see you on our next MicroAge Talks Technology on November 16th, same time for our next webinar. We have a special guest speaker who will talk to us about the M365 and how Microsoft, through artificial intelligence, based technology that they are calling Copilot will drive productivity like nothing we've ever seen before. So this should be interesting. It's really cool, and it scares me just a little bit. So look for the invite in the next couple of weeks. With that, once again, thank you, Sergio. Always a pleasure. And thank you all for spending the last hour with us, or almost hour. And see you next month. Have a great rest of the day.
Thank you, everyone.